Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Join the meeting. We have one person on Zoom. First item of business is the meeting of the liquor commissioners. We have two, a tobacco license for 7-Eleven and a catering permit for 17 Depot Street at the Waypoint Center. So I'll take a motion to approve, deny the tobacco license for 154 Rockingham Street.
I move that we approve a tobacco license for 154 Rockingham Street.
Do we hear a second?
A second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the license, tobacco license of 154 Rockingham Street. Any discussion, questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Now we'll take a motion to approve or deny a cater permit for 17 Depot Street at the Waypoint Center, June 16th.
I move to approve the catering permit for 17 Depot Street, the Waypoint Center for June 16th. We have to say the caterer, Donovan.
We hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the license for cater permit, 17 Depot Street at the Waypoint Center, June 16th. Questions, comments? Hearing seeing none, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Motion carries. You have the originals or?
I just have copies, so I'll give you my copy so you can send them
Don't
around.
have those, no, they got copies here, so. Alright, get those going around. Okay, the second order of business would be to approve the minutes of May 16th, 2023. Take a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of May 16, 2023.
We're excited.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of May 16th, 2023. Any comments, corrections, deletions, omissions, etc.? I have one. The spelling on proposed coast instead of cost. It should be cost instead of coast. Down near the bottom of the first item, public hearing for the CPP grant. Second sentence, you got it correct. Okay. That being said, all those in favor of adopting the minutes would say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting. I have none other than to mention there will be an executive session for a legal matter and there will be no comments coming out. Scott,
That's it.
anyone have anything for public? Okay, moving right along. Public comment on items not on the agenda. Mr. Wallace.
Yes, Walter Wallace, representing the Historic Preservation Commission. I just wanted to bring to the town's attention the fact that the historic structure report has been delivered to the town by Lisa Papazian and Associates. This is the historic structure report that was prepared in anticipation of the Save American Treasures Grant. Last December, there was a presentation made by Lisa Papazian to the select board and to the town, giving preliminary findings. This is the final report. And the report will be presented next Tuesday via Zoom, a collaboration that we have with the Rockingham Public Library. Lisa Papazian, the historic architect Les Skangas, and the engineer involved with the project, Bob Neal, the three principal investigators, will be presenting to the community and open up for questions and answers that people may have about the structure report, including the refined and up-to-date cost estimates for the repairs.
Really? Any questions for all?
What time is that, Walter?
I'm sorry, 6 p.m. There is a notice going out to the newspapers. There will be other notices posted to remind people and to give folks a link to the Zoom meeting. It's scheduled to go from 6 to 7. And it will be archived on YouTube, so it will be available for future reference by the community.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Walt. Move right on to the manager's report.
So there's a couple items in the board's packet that we'll share with the public as well. The first thing is a collaborative effort between V-Trans and Betsy Thurston on our staff, which is a new blog that will be updated as we go through our Depot Bridge project. So this is the first initial entries in that blog, and there is a link for folks to sign up. It's on our website. If they add their email, they can be added for any kind of updates or any things that are posted here. We're hoping to use this as we get further into schedules for things like when we're gonna have potential road closures or utility work or other things that are gonna be impacting some of the traffic flows and the residences and the businesses in the downtown. We can certainly keep people, it's another way to keep people informed. So they had done this once before on a fairly significant project in Middlebury. They were quite happy with the outcome. So V-Trans is putting this together for our project. So we appreciate that. And there'll be more, like I said, as schedules and other things develop. So
Yeah, there may be some links on the website that people can
Yes.
find this, 'cause right now it's kind of hard to switch it around unless you got that email, but you can click on the link in the email.
yeah, we'll get it
Okay.
a way so that people can get signed up on it.
Yep.
So
I wonder too, if we could get like just a physical sign with the link, a little explanation that could be posted, even at the bridge site, just so,
I don't know if they do a QR or not with that. I'll have to see.
because that would bring it to the attention if people wouldn't notice this otherwise,
Yeah, I don't know. So we'll see if that's something that we can do.
Okay, you got the safety grant.
So the second piece that was in your packet, it's been discussed at previous meetings, but this is our actual submission for the V-Trans Small Scale Safety Improvement Grant and the project that we're working with overall. Folks, is basically the extension of a designated sidewalk that will show on Rockingham Street. So we had applied so that we can bring in a contractor and make that an improvement so that it's a visual improvement, basically from the Legion on up towards the laundromat and the parking lots further up the street. So that's been submitted. It's a 100% grant. There is no match. So we appreciate Megan worked on that, turned it around quickly. So we appreciated her work on that. The third thing that was not in your packet, but just as a point of information for the board, we did finally get a 1-year extension with our ambulance provider. So we now at least have a 1-year contract with them. So it is from May of this year till May of next year. And we will see again, as we've talked about challenges in that industry, is what our options might be and how things progress. So, but as of right now, we at least have a written agreement with a term and a price, and so we've at least reached that point where we have some clarity as to our, for the next year, what we'll be doing with our EMS services. So
Scott, when you told me this last time, you had felt that their price was on the high side. Is that been negotiated, or do we have to accept the price that they proposed?
there are, basically, we have to accept the price that we were given. There were no other people that were interested in providing us the services.
And that was an increase of how much?
So we went from 72,000 a year to 120,000 a year.
And there are also been problems with the service, as I recall.
A lot of challenges with mutual aid, and I think you're going to see other communities. I know Springfield Ambulance specifically and Walpole Ambulance specifically has started to charge for mutual aid responses because the burden on their services has become so overwhelming, they have to try to recoup some of their overhead too. So we're just in very early stages of a massive problem. This is a problem, as you can, from Brattleboro all through the county. This is nothing unusual, all the way through the state of Vermont. So
Do we have any recourse if they don't deliver the services that they've contracted for? Because a lot of times in the past, you reported that people made calls and Walpole had to come over and cover for these people. And if the Gold Cross is collecting the money and Walpole's doing the work, if that didn't work.
I guess you could found some the feedback to them and say, cut it off your contract, but,
Yeah,
it's a system-wide problem. The EMS system is failing in Vermont. It's not crazy to say that, it is. And the fix is, unfortunately, most of the fixes are beyond the state's control because of the way the rates work. The ambulance services are having an impossible time to make the money work because their wages are increasing, the cost of their equipment and materials are increasing, but their reimbursement rates are static and they're not basically supporting the cost of service. And if you go to the model that Brattleboro has done, for example, where you take paid professional firefighters and EMS people, you can staff that way, but the costs are
extraordinary.
they're high. Yeah, you're paying a lot more money. So there's a lot of concern, a lot of we're hoping to see some help on the states at least acknowledge the problem. They're starting to do some some studying, which is not terribly helpful at the local level at the moment, but at least they're made aware of it. I think as time develops, we're going to have to get more state assistance or other levels of government to assist this problem, because we're not going to fix it at the local level.
And when we met with our legislators a couple weeks ago, there's a study that has been commissioned about how to approach the EMS crisis. It's really a crisis.
Yeah, and it impacts everybody. We've talked to Chester, they're having the same issues, so it's a regional problem.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else?
No, the only other thing, we'll adopt it later or at least refer to it later in your agenda, but I did put an updated copy of the summer meeting schedule. We had to flip a couple dates because there were some conflicts with Peter and also with Paul about trying to make the meetings work. So I'm hoping that we didn't create more conflicts by flipping some of the meeting dates, but we'll talk about that later in the meeting.
Okay, what's that?
That should do it.
Okay, let's move on to Mr. Noble and the heirs of the mission certificate. You have the floor, sir.
Do you have a copy of this request?
Yes, there's something in
Okay,
there.
this copy is a little bit confusing because it's rare. We, the listers, have to ask you, the board, to treat this as an error of omissions, because actually it could have been done in the abatement section, except if you read the form, this is to abate taxes which were written into the 2002 grand list. And since we don't own that grand list anymore, we have to ask your permission to essentially abate this tax. This tax was billed this year. It shouldn't have been, because this property was sold. It is no longer a commercial property. It no longer has any personal property in it. It is now a residence. So what this actually does is trigger our ability to open the 2002 grand list and just change the billing address to the new owner. This is only, if you will read, it's only personal property. It has nothing to do with the building. It's just the equipment that they had to keep their business in order. That's all it's for. It's an academic move to get open this 2022 grand list.
So that being said, Paul, you're looking for abatement to abate 3876 for the town, correct? Now, what do you want to do with the village? Because there's nobody here from the village to abate their portion.
As far as I know, the village doesn't collect personal property.
Okay, well, just make sure we're not gonna step on somebody's feet.
Oh, well, we're trying not to.
We got enough issues going on. Alright, so you're gonna need a motion to abate, taxes of, for a community care home, in the amount of $38.76 for the town and $13.33 for the village. So take a motion to abate those amounts.
So moved.
A second.
Motion made and seconded to vote to abate $38.76 and $13.33 for the village, for the community care home which has been sold. It's been removed from commercial property listing. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, we have Rockingham revolving loan fund recommendation for Child Popolo.
Just one other item on that, you guys do need to sign this form, so we do need one,
Okay, you got the copy?
I got a copy here.
All right.
So, and then they submit that with the action. So I think it's on that top page. You can see that top page right there, Peter, on that side. I think that's also for select board signature.
Goodies. Hey, let's get on to the Rockingham revolving loan fund. There is a letter in your packet for recommendation of a loan for Child Popolo for $50,000 and 6%, term of 7 years or months, whichever you prefer to use. Do we have any questions? I know I've got some information from Sue on this. No one is here from the
Folks are
applicant
here.
or the loan fund except for Gary.
Darlene is here.
Oplo, and I'm here.
I know they're from Child Popolo, but.
No, I'm the owner.
here.
I'm the owner.
Oh, okay.
And Susan and I are both on the ROF.
Yeah. So, is there any questions? Evidently, there are none. So I would take a motion to approve the loan for Child Popolo.
I move that we approve the loan as described in the application, $50,000 on 6%, 84 months.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the, loan for Child Popolo for the amount of $50,000 at 6% for 84 months or 7 years. Further discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
All right. First amendment to closing assumption and priority agreement. I think this is for the Bell's Falls Garage.
It
And
is,
we're just a pass-through organization here,
correct.
so.
So this is basically locking in some of their VHFA funding and also some other loans that were made as part of the project. And then again, we are not on any type of obligation for those. We are just simply a pass-through for the different funding sources that will then be the Windsor Housing Trust responsibility for the permanent loan payments.
Who would you prefer to have sign this?
I would think if they would authorize the chair, that would be fine.
Here's some of the documents. You're the dude.
Okay, so we would need a motion to
There's someone-
approve the First Amendment to closing assumption and priority agreement and authorize the chair and select board to sign said document.
So moved.
A second.
Motion made and seconded very quickly. They have to approve the First Amendment to close assumption and priority agreement and have the chair sign said document. Any further questions?
No, I'm just curious, I know people have started moving in, do we know how?
I didn't know
Rentals
they
are
were
going?
moving in, they were still working on some of the windows today when I saw.
They were supposed to be moving in over the weekend, so I'm not sure that
There's some in there.
there are some people that are
Sure.
physically there, yeah.
Or do we know if it's been rented out?
I don't know how many they've actually approved for the units.
Okay, motion made and seconded, no further questions? All those in favor would say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution to adopt preservation easement covenant Rockingham Meeting House. Where's the thick package, Walter? It's in the other one. A lot of pictures though.
Those three pictures.
And I appreciate you to think about it that way. I don't have to read anything.
So this is one of our responsibilities as we're pursuing some of the grants and very specifically, we have a lot of paperwork that goes along with our Save America's Treasures grants process. So this is the first, although I'm sure others that you'll have to participate with in order to get all of these requirements met. But this one does have a impact just because they want to make sure that whatever improvements are made are legally and responsibly preserved so that there is no misunderstanding in future, activities around the building itself. So there's nothing here that I don't think is necessarily any of a significant concern, but there is, again, this is sort of a function of receiving the federal funds. It's one of the many things that we'll have to do in order to qualify for that match. There is a resolution, the last exhibit, which is Exhibit C, which does resolve to have the chair authorized to sign this. And then that would be the only other legal requirement at this point, unless Walter, you had anything else to add?
The only thing that comes to mind is that this is for a 15-year period. That in 15 years, the easement goes away. This is not in perpetuity. It's based, the 15 years is based on the amount of money that the Save America Treasures grant is to the town for restoration.
What does this oblige us to? I read through the legalese and didn't understand it.
Well, as I understand it, this essentially solidifies our partnership with the state office, with the State Historic Preservation Office, as well as ultimately with the National Park Service. That, if you will allow SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, an officer, to work with us and make available to us the support that we may need from the state level in terms of technical support. It also provides the National Park Service with a local, with a regional microphone to record what's going on, to report to the National Park Service. As a way of, if you will, protecting their investment. The critical thing is that the National Park Service is providing us with $360,000 for the meeting house restoration. And they want to make sure that that money is well spent. It's not, and that is, that once the project is done, that for subsequent years, up to 15 years after the project starts, that that we won't go in and tear it down. We won't go in there and do something like for a vinyl siding. We won't go in there and do something that would detract, would somehow impact that investment. And it's protecting the taxpayers' money to a federal level.
I think it's a positive thing because you know? Otherwise, there's no guarantee that somebody in the future wouldn't have a really different idea of what to do with the place and basically destroy it and not really stay within the what our goals are currently. So I think it's all good.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, we'll need a motion to adopt a resolution to adopt preservation easement covenant for the Rockingham Meeting House.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to adopt a resolution to adopt preservation easement covenant Rockingham Meeting House and authorize the chair to sign said document. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. All right. Historical marker relocation, Hotel Wyndham, Andrews Inn. There's information in your packet. There's some controversy going on in regards to trees, the location thereof of the sign.
I guess as an update, so the Historic Preservation Commission did meet and they did go through a lot of materials that I presented, or that's in your packet as well. And there was 2 sites that were evaluated potentially. One that's somewhat in the side of the building where the marker currently sits, just moving it closer to the primary intersection. And the second location was at the more towards the crosswalk area where the current tree well is, where the smaller tree is at that intersection. The recommendation that did come through was to relocate the sign to the area that the small tree is currently planted in. But we got some information this afternoon that there is a concern that the state will not support our application to move it if the tree is viable. So we're going to have to go through some sort of evaluation of that site in terms of that tree as to whether or not it can be or classified, and then figure out from there if that site is still the preferred site, that the state then would authorize, if that's the decision, to move it to that new location. So.
Is that the same tree that we got email about from the Flatiron?
Oh, no.
Different.
No, that's a different one, but they're
Here?
contesting.
Different sidewalk, different side of the sidewalk.
Different side of the street. Okay.
So one bump out in front of the coffee shop, there's a tree there that we're going through a process to determine that. And then the one in front of the hotel.
But if they dig a hole in there, they can't really damage that tree. The tree's gone.
Okay.
So I don't know. And the Scott just said we got some states involved now of where they want to move it, so.
It can't be moved to just the edge of the building on that same spot?
So they want to move it between the first 2 windows. If you look at the picture of that hotel.
The property owners were a little concerned about moving it to the front because they were concerned that it would block some of their access or their views out of the front of their building. Now, I don't know specifics of looking at it, what windows would be impacted or what views are necessarily impacted, but that was what the conversation was.
If you put it right here on the edge of that sidewalk, it doesn't seem anything would be impacted. Because that room is just
Right there.
yeah,
Yeah, this is part of the restaurant.
that room is part of, it's an auxiliary room. I mean, they have functions, special functions there, but that's about it.
Mm.
It's not part of the.
Yeah, that's
actual
sort of
restaurant.
like the entranceway coming in. There's just a big room. I know we went to
Yeah.
something a couple, 3 years ago.
You do events there
Something down there.
sometimes, but it's, yeah. It might be worth talking to them and not get involved with removing the tree.
Yeah.
I personally don't like the idea of removing any trees downtown because they take a very long time to grow. And, if you remove it, you're not getting anything back soon. And especially if you've taken it out and you've eliminated entire, tree location, you don't have you're not going to have
Right.
anything there. So,
It's just a little bit of history. When this was set up, this whole streetscape situation, there were 2 trees on this island, and across the street, in front of where Richard's office was, there were 2 trees designed there. You can see the big tree and ones over there on the side about the same size. The reason this one is so small is the first large tree they put in died. So they took it out and somebody decided, oh, let's put a maple in there. Well, maples are not very salt tolerant. So that didn't last very long, and then they went back to the locust again, which is why that tree is behind the growth thing of that. So if the tree's healthy, I mean, it's a shame to get rid of it and then, you know, have spoil the streetscape design of 2 and 2 on that, and then all the other ones have one down.
Yeah.
And it does provide some shade to that bench, which is right underneath it pretty much.
Shade is
And people who sit there.
And it's just getting to the point too where it's gonna take off now, you know, it's like it's established.
Yeah.
It's been there for
It's
long
gonna
enough
grow.
that it's gonna take off.
So the controversy we had was the coffee shop. We're investigating that a little further. We're getting an arborist or state forester to come down and look at the tree. Our tree warden was out there and caused some consternation with the people in front of the block of the coffee shop. So we're kind of delayed anything to do with that tree until we get somebody else to look at the tree. So just appease the public. We're not gonna cut it down. It's, you know, we're working to find a way to do it. And it looks like it needs some help, but unless you get a professional arborist to look at it and actually tell you whether it's gonna survive or not, is the point.
There was a hole drilled through it.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, the tree warden decided he needed a core to see the condition of the tree. Well, that caused more consternation.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't tapping the tree for maple syrup, that's for sure. I mean, so that's the controversy that was going on, and so we're looking into it, and we've got 2 or 3 guys who are contacting, but then who gets here first will go from there.
Okay.
So just so you know, so.
Thanks.
So is there any opposition if we do move it up between those 2 windows?
Wait,
First 2 windows?
no, I don't, I'm saying at the very end. I mean, it's
Yeah, but I
supposed
don't
to be
think you
in-
got enough room there at that end.
It looks like there's plenty of room.
Well, it looks like it, but go down more.
It gets narrower
I don't know
there.
when
It
they're-
narrows it narrows in towards the building, towards the end there, and down to the corner, and then when they use that sidewalk plow, they clip it.
I see.
Walter told me that the state pays for the first 3 cracks, and after that, it's on us. You hit it 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out. So,
Well, as far as I think that either there is a good location, you know, moving it further out,
I mean, we can move
into the
further,
middle.
yeah, further out, I mean, it could block the window, but I mean, it's not like it's gonna block the window entirely. I mean, you're just gonna post there.
Yeah, and of course, this would all be dependent upon talking to the property owners, and because it's on their property, so they have to pay it. The other idea was to, as we talked about before, dig through the brick, where that trash receptacle is sitting at currently next to the end of the bench. And I know that it's, you know, you have to dig through, you know, compacted gravel, and you have to map out where the power line is at. I think it's the best of both worlds myself, because it does, you know, it satisfies the desire of having it, you know, out in front of the building where it's more visible when people are driving down the main street through the square. And it's, you know, not on any private property, but it also doesn't require a tree to be cut down. That was my suggestion.
Did you suggest that to the historic commission, preservation commission?
Well, Scott, you can probably tell more about this, about, you know.
Well, we had a couple of just sort of field visits out there, and I think the highway department felt that that would be a very difficult spot for putting it, for a variety of different reasons. They weren't real supportive of that idea.
If you put it over there, I think you're gonna find out that it's close to there, if they come through with a plow, and even if they're picking up snow, if they clear the parking spaces, it gets clipped and,
I think that's their.
and we got issues to go forward with.
So do we do the owners of the building, and that would be Pat and
Pat and Alan,
Alan, do they have a consultant for the next move? or not?
Well, if we're moving it somewhere different on their property, yes, I think that would be something we'd want to do. And I think even as a courtesy, we want to at least talk to them about
Absolutely.
where this would go.
So is that something you would do or Elijah would do, or?
It's up to the board, I guess, you know, depending upon what your preferences are.
Well, we can approach them and ask them if they have a problem moving further out on their property. I mean, I don't think they're gonna, I would think they wouldn't have any issue with that.
Like about there?
Well, that's what one of the, when the HPC, did it, that's where one of their locations was, they wanted to move it out to the island, but then with the tree issue cropped up, well, you know.
Okay, so,
So we check with them and find out it's, they don't have a problem moving it, or even if they can move it further to the front.
okay,
If there's enough room there to put it in there.
yeah, they were just here.
So
This picture that says proposed marker location is the current proposed marker. location.
that was where the original one, that's where it is now.
No, it isn't where it is now.
No?
No, it's actually where we're thinking of putting it, between those two windows.
Yeah, I kind of have to tell.
It looks like it.
I thought so.
Yeah, it looks like she's standing in between the two windows.
Yeah.
Not further back by the,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because there's that phone call thing for this, grate, yeah. Well, it looks like it's from the second window though.
pretty much, yeah, but,
So if they move it further between the two windows,
Yeah.
it's not gonna block any of the windows looking out. And it would be, you know, on the building, right?
all right.
So do we wanna have Scott contact, the filers and see if they have an issue with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
And if there's no issue, then we'll proceed with it,
sounds good.
get it done.
Good.
Okay, good. All right, let's move along to the contract for law enforcement services. There's a information in your packet. Scott can update you on some other issues we've been discussing along the road.
So after our tri-board meeting, there was a lot of conversation about enforcement with all the communities that were tabled. And follow up, Peter and Paul and myself, I did contact the sheriff to say, is there an opportunity if we provided some village manpower that they could match our manpower and do targeted patrols utilizing the governor's highway safety funds? So I did reach out to the sheriff about that. He was interested in seeing how we might be able to do that because apparently he's having a difficult time utilizing his current allocation of funds. So we're looking at a project or pilot project to see if we can staff targeted enforcement within at least Saxon's River, rural Rockingham and the village, and then potentially also looking at Westminster and seeing how that would go, utilizing, the resources and see if it's something that we would continue. That might supplement the contracts, because I think we all heard the same concerns that while there were lots of policing concerns, it kept coming back to speed enforcement and traffic issues. I think that was the overwhelming conversation. And that might be a way to hopefully stretch our presence and maybe make some of those folks feel that, that there's been some response to their concerns.
So the cost would be shared between Rockingham and Westminster, or there'd be
The
outside?
cost would go through the Governor Highway Safety Grant. It would be paid for through a third-party grant. We would not pay direct.
Wow, and who, do we apply for the grant first?
We get $10,000 a year, and we apply every year as a village. The town doesn't, the sheriff gets the allocation for Wyndham County. But he was telling me, because traffic enforcement, you really have to put together a unit, a specified unit to go out and do it. He's having a hard time putting that together. So we married up some of our village resources with some of his resources. We could target very specific enforcement activities and see how it works.
Now, how's that gonna work with going down to Westminster? I mean, I can see it going into town, but I mean, we're going into another town jurisdiction, not that it's a legal issue, but I'm just wondering how that's gonna work with the village trustees if we're using the PFPD on occasion to.
Well, talk to them about, they wanna see how it works as a.
But I don't know, I haven't heard
Down
that
the
side of
road,
the
those
trustees.
are,
I
you
know.
know,
We talked with Dave, and that Dave Bemis in regards to the town and stuff, and
right.
so I think that it's possible to work, so we're gonna try it for a month, I guess,
And are the trustees on board with this?
We've talked about it, so. we'll bring it up
it's not
again.
taking on for me, it's not
I
about it.
mean, it's a pilot everybody's willing to try, and see how it
So,
goes.
try it, see that, sure, like, it's gonna get a little more enforcement out there than the $6,000 that we're
That's for sure.
surely starting with, so.
That's a good, yeah, good idea.
Right,
So,
Yeah.
so we're making the progress on that ground, on that front.
right.
But we'd still be getting the
Oh, yeah,
sheriff's.
the sheriff's gonna do, yeah, that's a done deal, yeah.
One question on the document, Scott, on part 6A1, it said there's a spreadsheet on civil violation complaints, tickets issued during the preceding month. What is the revenue split? Is it, should we specify?
Depends on what statute he writes that under,
Oh,
because some, the state gets the majority of it, if he writes it under the town statutes, we get a piece, so it just depends. There are ways you can write it so that the town gets a bigger percentage of the actual violation.
okay.
But yeah, if they catch them on Route 5, which is a state highway, that'd be, or even on 3.
Parts of the road, we get presumably a big chunk.
And it's not just speed enforcement, they'll be doing seatbelt, they'll be doing DUI, they'll do the full range of whatever the concerns might be. Mostly speed though, I think that's been pretty obvious that that's most people's concern.
Yeah.
And we'll see if the enhanced presence makes a difference. When I've done these before in other communities, it always amazes me, people are very supportive in the beginning, and then they have a couple of these enforcement actions. Some of the folks that came to complain about speeding get picked up in some of the enforcement actions. And then somebody picks up trial, and they don't want the enforcement anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that'll happen here.
It's everybody, don't catch me.
It has happened in the past, let me put it that way. So,
Yeah,
I would just say that anyone, please, you know, let's all be considerate of each
we're
other.
trying.
Right.
At one point, I know that they couldn't enforce cell phone laws, driving with a cell phone unless they violated another thing. Is that still the case? Or can they, if someone's obviously driving down the road on their cell phone and the police see that, they can now pull them over for that?
I thought if it was a clear, and again, I don't have a full understanding of the statute, so I'll have to ask Dave Scooter, but I thought if it was a clear vision, they could. Right.
No, on the interstate, it specifically says, no handheld devices. So you just stop there, you're gonna get nailed.
When you come across the bridge from New Hampshire, to Westminster, there's a sign.
The entrance to the stadium.
Yeah, so, but,
But usually they never enforce it.
yeah,
unless you-
it's hard, you see, you sit down in the square and you're walking right through it,
Oh, I
you have
know.
it right on your phone. They don't pay attention, that's why people get hit down here, because they're
Yeah.
talking on a phone or something, but anyway.
I think somebody had a question out in the audience.
Yeah.
Does it, Jamie?
Okay.
Jamie, do you wanna?
Jamie has a question.
Jamie, you got anything?
Yeah, I do. I'm just wondering, so for the target program, are we talking 24/7? Are we talking daylight, overnights? What's the, I mean, I understand we're not gonna say we're gonna be out there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just wondering, is this around the clock? Is this daytime, nighttime?
Whatever they can work out for a schedule.
I think it's yeah, they have a scheduling officer, Jamie, that works with the sheriff's office directly, but I think what it is they look at specific times, obviously. They'll look at, depending upon where they're doing enforcement, if they're impacting some of the places where people might go, like, traffic that goes to the ski mountains on the weekends, they might look at a Saturday or Sunday enforcement. If it's just a pure speeding thing, but it's happening mostly in the morning rush, they'll schedule somebody in those hours. So it's really more dependent upon what the complaint is, and then they try to schedule around or to try to address the specific complaint of that area. So.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Also, Jerry, you should know that Saxon River and Rockingham, we also have those electronic speed signs out there that do collect information as to the speeding, what times, et cetera, the speed limits and how much everybody's speeding at. So that gives them a little bit of information to work from too.
Right.
Are those out right now somewhere?
I'm not sure it's out at the moment, I'll have to double check, I know we were gonna put them out for a couple locations. So I think, I'm not sure it's out at the moment, I have to check with Andy, said, but I had three
Maybe get
places.
those out again.
Yes,
Yeah, still think we should just have a schedule set, you know, and just try to keep them out there as much as possible.
The problem is if you set a set schedule, the problem with that is that they get used to it. People say, oh, I mean, I don't know they're here, so we'll just go a little later, a little earlier. So that's why it's scattered because,
well,
you know, once they find out.
what I really hope is that the speed data helps for us to do real significant targeted enforcement, and if there's somebody doing, you know,
Well, what's the earliest that they're out? What's their start hour?
you can,
7 or 6?
no, I mean, you can set it up, because it's on a 4-hour minimum, so you can do whatever 4 hours you wanna do. It's a specific, you know, assignment.
Yeah, because in some areas, it starts at about 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where they're going, down Massachusetts, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay, we all set on the, so move along to the proposed summer meeting schedules in your packet.
Do we have to approve this contract or?
No.
We're all set.
It's been changed about 4 different times because I'm out of town, Paul's out of town.
we're talking about the contract for the police agency, I think.
And so,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you guys budgeted for it, it's more just for your information purposes, and we'll sign it and start it. We did want to talk about the, you know, the enhanced program, and we'll,
Yeah, the original or,
I have one here.
okay, we all, you want to sign that or you want me to sign
Why
it?
don't you go ahead and sign it?
Or you just pass
Send
it
it
along?
back. You've been good about signing today, so you know,
Yeah, I know.
keep it rolling.
We're on a roll here. And that too, wow. All right, now let's talk about the proposed meeting schedule, summer's meeting schedule, it is there in front of you. And you have any questions?
I don't know if we got it in my packet, did you? So it's the 18th then?
Be the 18th, the 15th at the Meeting House, and then the 19th of September, it was a regular board meeting, and then we would have a tri-board meeting in September. And we're hopeful, if the scheduling works out, we have the fire equipment, or fire feasibility study out for RFP, and we're hoping that we'll have that ready to go and then approved in July, so that we could have some initial information at that tri-board meeting in September, and then a final piece of information by the end of the year, so that it would be helpful in our budget discussions, because it's going to be, I think, a portion of that will definitely be helpful.
The village has discussed going to 1 meeting per month, except an extra meeting as necessary. I think that's something that we should discuss at some point.
You know, I think we have more business to take care of in the village, I think that's why they decided to go to 1 meeting a month. I mean, if you don't have a regularly scheduled meeting, the problem then becomes, you don't know where anybody is, so you tell them, you gotta have this meeting, and you gotta have this, a regular meeting is 48-hour notice. And a special meeting, you do 24, emergency meeting, you do a few hours, as long as you contact the public, so that you're gonna have it. So, you know, having 1 meeting a month is fine, but if you run into a scheduling difficulty, what do you do then? So, and we, like I say, we happen to have a lot more business than the village does.
Yeah,
One of the ideas I think the village had was that it would just so the staff wouldn't have to spend all their time, you know, preparing for meetings all the time and, you know, sitting in meetings. I don't know whether that would be, I mean, that's a good point, you know, we have more business than them, so, you know, maybe it won't work, but
we've done that in the past, we tried that several years ago, Peter, I don't know if you were on the board then.
Yeah, I remember doing those. We tried it.
And we ended up having, often we'd have, it's not so much we had special meetings, there was all this stuff that came up kind of at the last minute, we didn't have any information about. If we had, we would have been more prepared for that meeting 2 weeks later, we would have brought that, but all of a sudden you're focus on one meeting a month, more stuff gets thrown at you at the last minute.
Mhm.
That was part of the problem. But there are times, perhaps looking at the calendar throughout the year, and like in the summer, we're managing it in the summer. Maybe you could push it into October, I mean, right before you get into the budget season. You could add, and maybe May, you could do one. Maybe it's not every month, maybe you go to 6 months and then.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
all the information you need ahead of time so that we can then get the local approval in July rather than waiting another month, knowing that you're doing monthly meetings for the summer.
So you're gonna be down to what we call the old Gaze, fuel, station down there.
Yeah.
Are you upstairs,
We're
downstairs?
upstairs in that building for.
Oh, you're
right now.
upstairs.
Yeah, and we're just kind of doing our pilot project there. And then we'll be an anchor tenant at Liberty Mill after that.
So could you kind of explain to us your, not your hydroponic, but your other misting? I know
Yeah.
Jason was spilling in on
Yeah.
talking on the phone there.
Andre's the engineer.
It's basically, in a nutshell, if you go to the grocery store and you walk through the produce section and there's the
Same.
little misters,
Oh, okay.
plants basically just sit in a table. The roots hang in open air with a little fabric bag that they kind of grow in, and the mister just sprays nutrient-rich water at them. So there's no soil. Back in the 90s, it was, NASA published a paper about it. They were looking at it for space station, and it's 80% less water and it's 50% less nutrient. With great growth, the roots get a lot of oxygen and easy to take up nutrient. And so, it's hopefully gonna work out well. It's real small, as you can see in there. Our proposed canopy is a little under 150 square feet right now.
So we're just trying to dial in the technology, but we have to get the license to dial in the technology.
And proven the process works out, then we can expand it. Yeah, that's the idea.
So what you see in that packet, there's a photo of the inside of our space on at 154 Westminster. It's just an office with a couple of tents in it.
Yeah, it's drop ceiling and laminate floor with a couple grow tents in it.
Gary's been there, he's seen how it works.
Yeah.
But there were some questions around zoning first, I think I had to get cleared up and then.
So I guess the only other question I would wonder would be the security of the location.
The state
What do you got? I mean,
Yeah,
You know.
the state level CCB puts us through a compliance process.
because we aren't gonna see that 60-page thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So we
it's-
could if we wanted to, but we're not gonna,
I dare you to go try to break it.
So I didn't know if there were any restrictions they had put on you guys or.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to begin with, the Fells Falls Police Department likes to hang out in our front yard clocking people coming over the bridge, so.
Well, that's.
We're looking pretty good there.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we also have a security system.
But I didn't know if
In
there's,
place that's
bars on the windows type
Yeah,
of thing. or
and
anything
we're
like that.
talking about that right now. At the state level, they don't require that. Were we to experience a break-in, they would. We're looking at doing it preemptively on the interior, just to not have to deal with the delay in time. If we get broken into, it's gonna set us back.
Yeah,
And we're not a big operation, we're not funded through the gills. We can't afford to just sit there idle. We won't make it, to be honest, to be frank. This is where, time is sort of not on our side. We aren't a bottomless pit of money. We're, two brothers that borrowed the money from their sister.
well, that's an interesting concept.
So, yeah,
I haven't been there yet, but I know where you're going.
We aren't a bottomless pit of money, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Gary, do you manage applicants or does Scott's office? Which office manages the applicants?
So, the zoning administrator in the development office, is where that responsibility lies, but the problem is with the definitions of land use. So what you can do in a particular zoning district depends on the land use definition. Cannabis varies widely, like Jason was describing and Andre, their operation, they're calling it cultivation, but it's almost as if it's just inventory in a humidity and temperature code, like a wine cellar would be. And other types of cultivation can be very heavy and labor intensive. So at the Development Review Board, we need to do the work of defining the types of cannabis use in terms of land use categories in order to be able to issue permits for zoning. So what we talked about was the Cannabis Control Board, local control board, providing them with the ability, like a 1-year experimental permit to operate while we're working out these other things, because, I mean, we've done our due diligence, went and looked in the shop. They're in the part of the building where Cheryl Gay used to have, take the money. We walk in, and it's such low impact on the community. It's like, it's an easy fit. And we want business in the community, we want that vibrancy, and we can't get there in a timely way right now because of the land use pieces that we're going through. So that's what we're looking for, help from you folks, from the local control board, to provide that temporary, experimental permit, whatever you want to call it, but provide them the ability to do that while we work out all of those land use issues at the development review board level.
Great, so will that be an application that we will review in the packet for the 18th?
Basically, the information that you're looking at here, the information that from the state board, and I can boil it down into salient points for you that relate to the land use issues, what they look at in terms of no adverse undue impact. So I could, so we could give you something like that. Can work with Jason and Andre to have a synopsis.
Okay, since there's no traffic, there's no parking really, no deliveries, right?
None of this.
So
We can't, as a tier 1 indoor grower, we're only licensed to sell to local dispensary. So we can't have the public there. We're not allowed. In fact, we have to keep a log of anybody that comes. Any regular contractors have to get cleared with the state, the background check. It's very highly regulated. For us, we're not retail. We're not a manufacturer. We're not.
And most of our systems are automated and remotely monitored anyway, so we'll be in and out of there a few times a week.
We stop in and visit.
That's great. Say hi to the plants.
Yeah, we have no employees there. We have no,
That's great.
So the things grow, we come in on harvest day every couple of weeks, cut them down, dry it, package, ship it, that's it.
So is there issues with waste
There's no waste.
for the plants?
We have, the only waste we'll have at that point is root, stalk, and leaf, which is all composted offsite. And any wastewater we're bringing with us, taking out, it's nutrient, so it's not considered waste. We change the nutrient every week, and it's highly valuable nutrient. I spend a lot of money on my Norwegian sea kelp. I don't want to flush it down.
Just the shipping is costing.
Yeah, so that's going, really, we at one point thought about bottling it and selling it. Just to try to actually recoup a little of the cost of it. Because for us, we change it weekly just to avoid any potential problems, bacteria growth, pH levels getting out of whack, even just salinity, parts per million of strength of the mixture.
So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, just a question, curiosity. You're from Claremont and Heartland. How did you end up settling here?
Well, my daughter attends Compass School.
Okay.
And I work remotely from my day
I'm
job.
just curious.
Yeah.
So I've been renting from, renting an office in town here and commuting down and working for Michael Bruno. Anyway, and then we were looking for a town that might have affordable real estate and
a lot of it
job
was-
base. And we're like, well, we're here every day anyway.
Yeah.
So
That's great. Gary, when we get an application like we do for the liquor control board, is there a standard application that?
We've never seen one from the state, so I'm not sure what they're gonna provide, right?
I
This
spoke
is
with the
all
state.
new.
I spoke with the state about this to ask what the process is, and they said it's very informal. You'll get an email from the state board. So whoever's the registered contact for the local CCB, which is probably you, Rick, you'll just get an email from the state CCB saying, we would like to give approval to Vermont Home Grow. When they have received approval from the local CCB, just reply. And that's all it is. It's an email.
Oh, okay.
There's no form, there's no paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, I'd gladly fill out an application for you, but I have no application to fill out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if there's anything I can provide for you guys to help you in the process, please feel free to reach out.
This is tremendously helpful.
That's right.
Well, that's where we said it. I think we just need a printout to help give them some information. I don't think I think, without knowing what it is, I think you probably hear this and you think, they're some giant warehouse. I don't know, and really it's.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's good. Now, we have two other applicants, Gary, right? We have one cultivator and one retail, is that right?
That's a little confusing. I really can't answer that. It's not really clear to me.
Okay, so so if these people show up, they show up on the 18th. That is much as you can know.
So you mean applicants for the liquor control board?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought, just general cannabis activity in the town. There's different activity that I'm not really clear on, all of it. But, so there is at 440 Rockingham Road, there's a retail operation. And at 30 Industrial Drive, there's what's considered a manufacturing, light industrial operation, which is the traditional cultivation, which couldn't happen.
That may not be, a manufacturer's license is different than cultivator's license. So there's several tiers. There's tier 1 indoor, tier 1 outdoor, tier 1 combination use, indoor and outdoor on the same property, tier 1 manufacturing, tier 1 wholesale, tier 1 retail.
But basically, we don't have the land use defined, and looking at the operations, what homegrown does is very light and low impactful. What the 30 Industrial Drive one does is very heavy with soil in and out, and trucks in and out, and much different operations. The odor, in the shop in Westminster Street, there's no odor. Where you have the traditional cultivation, the growing, that, again, it's not defined yet, but it got permitted under enclosed manufacturing because we don't have the definition for it yet. But at any rate, so those two, yes, will be coming before you at the same time. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Oh, okay, all right. That's good to know.
Good, you all set?
Just one other question, Gary, is I communicated with the woman that Jason did at the state CCB, Ray, someone?
Reynolds, yeah.
Yeah, and she said that if we don't approve it within 45 days, it's automatically granted. If we don't approve it, it's automatically granted. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. The local level CCD boards are largely ceremonial, and the only judicial power that they have is to assure that zoning laws are being followed. Short of that, it's a ceremonial thing. So the state kicks it to you guys to make sure, hey, this is going on in your town, double check your zoning, make sure you're good, get back to us. And that's really the only role.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the limiting factor then is zoning.
Correct.
Which Gary is responsible for.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for following.
Anybody else? Going once? All set? Thanks for coming in.
Guys, thank you so much.
Can't get the information.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for squeezing us in.
Gary, what time gonna be tomorrow? Don't mean to hold you up, but I gotta.
No, that's okay. 9:30.
So 10 o'clock, fine.
Yeah.
All right. It'll be quick. All right, let's go on to the agenda here. Review, approve, and approve ordered bills and warrants. Take a motion.
I move that we approve orders, bills, and warrants.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the ordered bills and warrants. All in favor would say aye. Aye.
Hi, guys. Thank you
All
very much.
opposed, nay. Motion carries. And they're coming around for signatures. Agenda items for the July 18th, 2023 meeting. We'll have the cannabis
CCB will be.
CCD.
We're hoping to have our fire feasibility study on for approval, but it just depends on process.
So, have they responded to the RFPs yet?
I've reached out to 3 companies, 2 are going to, seems to will give us proposals, so we're hoping to have at least 2, possibly a 3rd. And that it's listed at other places, so we might get others, but not 3 specifically.
And then will the consultants meet with us before they start interviewing people and the fire departments, or how will that work?
No, more than likely they'll get started because there's already a scope of service that's gone through the fire equipment committee. So they will have at some point meetings with the local elected officials, but not in the very beginning.
All right.
They'll be doing more data work and getting stuff that they need.
And then when they present their report, it'll be to the joint boards.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get them in for that September tri-board. So I wanted to get them started so we could have something in that end of September and then hopefully at least an interim final by later on in the fall.
Great,
So that we have data to work with as we look at budget issues.
wonderful.
So we have financials for that meeting. I know it's 18th is.
Yeah, we might have stuff from year end. Yeah. Oh, I have an Alyssa face. Yes, Alyssa.
Did you guys talk about financials when the mic was muted?
No.
No.
Yeah, we didn't have, nobody had any real questions.
Everybody
Okay,
got
I
your,
wanted to make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Asked if we're gonna have financials for the 18th, July 18th meeting.
And we also discussed the FEMA holdup on that $418,000.
Hmm.
But that doesn't include your budget apparently.
No,
shows
we've already taken that money and claimed it anyway.
Okay, well, see where we go, see what you can come up with, we'll go with what we got. Anything else?
nothing that
Think
sticks
of?
out. We
Okay,
might
we got
have
a little time.
sidewalks. We might have that to award. I'm not sure. That's out too right now at the moment, and gravel crushing. So those might be ready to go.
Okay, review agenda items for the joint board meeting, September 26th, tentatively. And we got time to play with that one, that's a couple months out. Other business, Elijah?
Yes. I would like to suggest that we think about reactivating our tree committee. Because we have, a fair amount of tree issues that have come up. And we have a lot of tree work that we're going to have to do over the next several years. And I think that having a tree committee would really complement our efforts with the tree warden, and it would be a good way to be able to have a good dialogue with the public, to have citizens involved with tree maintenance and planting. I believe we did used to have one, and I think we just simply don't have any members on it right now.
There was a mass evacuation, I can tell you. I won't go into the details, but my wife was on it and, there were 5 people on it. And there was an issue with, I'm not gonna go any further than that, I'll leave it for that. And so they all just said, we're done,
Geez.
we're done.
All right, so would there be select board representation as well as citizens, or how would this work?
How was it set up previously?
It was just citizens.
Citizens.
And, they took care of the plan, and he went down and checked out trees, and then they had people who would, and when they put them in, the people would water them, because you can't just put them in and leave them, I mean.
Sure.
And they got to the point where they were proficient with the people, where they planted the trees, and a lot of them volunteered to water, so they didn't have to run around, but a lot of them, a couple of them ladies went around with big jugs in the back of their cars watering the trees.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's a little more detailed than just saying a committee, and it's a lot of work involved.
Yeah.
And, you don't have the time.
So this would advise Cass maybe, or Cass would be part of the conversation, obviously.
Oh, I think that has to be part of the conversation,
Yeah.
but, one thing that I know is that there will be some good grant funding coming up later this year through the Vermont Urban Community Forestry Program. If we could be poised to take advantage of that, because we need a lot of trees right now. And just taking that out of our budget just isn't sustainable to get the kind of tree planting that we need, I think.
We only have like $5,000 in there. Of course,
Yeah, Cass says he can only afford, what, 2 or 3
2 or 3
trees?
trees, but
Yeah.
he was lucky, he stumbled into some trees that the state was giving away, and he was able to, people had claimed them and never one picked them up, so he was able to get what was left, and I don't know what he got, but I mean,
That's great.
So we got some that way, but, so, because I know we talked, Scott and I did, trying to maybe revive the volunteer system, went and planted all the ones in the park down there. Because they got those other village forest. Donald Thomas and a couple of people, and they got a group of people up, and they dug them out of the forest and cost the town nothing.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so Captain saying, can we do it again? Like, well, I'd probably have to approach the village and see if they can dig up a tree. Either that or just go dig them up anyway. So,
Elijah, I'd be glad to serve on that if you want to volunteer as a citizen or as a select board member, whatever.
Is it something we want to think about putting out a call to?
yeah, I mean, we'll hurt to put it on Facebook, so you can try and send out. Yeah, Facebook seems to be working. When you do that Facebook thing, a lot of
Seems to
people,
reach some people.
it reach a lot of people that way. I mean, put an ad on the website, people don't visit that
Not
often.
very often.
And whereas the Facebook, a lot of people
Yeah.
look at Facebook. Whereas,
That's true.
you know, and where they, I mean,
Yep.
there's all kinds of fun stuff on there if you really start.
That's true.
Before we jump around, I think Jamie had another question.
Jamie, you got something there? I see your hand flopping.
No, well, just in other business, just wondering what the latest, reclaiming date is, when they're gonna start the reclaiming up on the terrace and stuff.
End of June is when they're gonna do that up there. Oh.
You're talking about the paving, Jamie?
Yeah, so I've noticed they started painting lines and everything, 2 inches, mill here and everything. And I know we had talked, and I heard earlier that it was gonna be, late in June. I'm just wondering, are they still on track to start? Are we gonna move it up?
It won't be moved up. The original date is June 30th, and it really depends on what the weather is for the next 2 weeks. If they stay on schedule, we should be starting up around the end of June. But we'll post stuff on individual streets and neighborhoods before we start with the milling. So,
Okay, well, just hopefully it's before the day before it starts, because GMP, they got all the polls done. And there was good communication there. However, when they went to transfer the lines over, I was up north and I came home and everything was just, you couldn't get anywhere, and there was like no notification. I think they had posted it Memorial Day weekend on Friday. They put something on your door saying we'll be here on Tuesday. So, but just, and the other thing, I understand how important trees are, and I think that's great, but we're talking about creating another committee. However, it's still crickets on, our local hazard mitigation plan. And I've heard zero. And with all this rain that we've been getting, all it's going to take is a couple more storms and we have a culvert washout or something else like that, or an event with a landslide or just some other event that, our plan doesn't fully cover. So when you're thinking about committees, let's think about the safety of the community as well. And that's all I've got. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Jamie. I have one question. The cemetery committee, what's happening there? Anything?
Yep, we have, our next meeting coming up on, let me take a look. It will be posted and warned, of course, ahead of time. Do you know when this, Scott?
Yeah.
the next meeting?
For you or did we go?
Yeah, I'm not sure when the next one is.
We had our first meeting last month. Or organizational meeting.
I was just curious as to what, if anything, is happening there, or are we just chatting there, or have they ever done anything outside, or? I know that when we first started that up, and the reason we started it was because there were some complaints about, like on West Street, some of the small trees are starting to overburden the monuments and stuff that are up there. And there'd be something, you just go with some clippers on a couple hours and just open them up. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it was of course just the organizational meeting, so we haven't gotten too far.
No, I didn't know, that's why I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Haven't anybody come after me, but,
I think the plan was the next meeting was going to be at the Rockingham Meeting House
Is that the
Cemetery.
cemetery, the September one, the September 9th?
That is going to be
The
the
restoration.
conference, yeah, the cemetery, restoration conference. So that's why the next meeting, was planned to be held at
That sounds right.
the Rockingham Meeting House Cemetery, so we could actually look, just have a field, tour of the site, so we can, I think the goal is to try to visit several different cemeteries to just help people become more familiar and to inspect the physical conditions.
Yeah. Okay, just curious.
Yep.
Right,
Nothing.
so, okay, that being said, take a motion.
Well, before we jump into executive session, just one other item under other business, just as a Depot Bridge project. The engineers are trying to schedule some boring along, they've got to do some additional boring along Canal Street and along the bridge itself. There'll probably be some disruption in the neighborhood. They don't have it scheduled yet. I was hoping that they would know by today what their potential schedule is. They still don't know. So we'll try to contact folks down there and do the best we can with outreach, but there might be a day or two of some disruption in that neighborhood as they're doing some borings and some additional geotechnical work, so. The other thing is the bridge rail itself, and Walter was here earlier. I know the HPC met and did discuss the preferred design alternative on the rail for the actual new bridge, and the state, I believe, is taking that into consideration. I think that was transmitted to the folks at the state. The one person who was the point of contact was back on the job, even out for a significant period of time.
He attended the meeting, so.
Okay, so
Part
we
of
should hopefully hear
conversation.
something about that soon, because we're getting close to the point of tying all those loose ends up.
Okay, so that being said, let's get, we have a legal update, so only two motions. Someone wants to read two motions, and it will be referring to number 12, confidential.
Okay, so, I move that the premature general public knowledge of confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage by litigation, yes, et cetera.
Strategy.
Negotiating strategy. And therefore, we, need second, no,
We gotta vote, I've gotta have a second, and then we vote.
all right.
A second.
All right. So now you can go on to the second one.
Second motion, I move that the board enter executive session to discuss the litigation
Right.
under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes.
Second,
I'll second.
okay, we're all set, we're in.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.